when you think about the principle that was upheld that day and in subsequent days at the Edmund Pettus Bridge, it was the promise of an inclusive America. It was the promise of an America where everybody is equal under the law, where everybody has opportunity.
Welcome back to Harbor. That was, of course, President Obama this morning, actually, on the Joe Madison radio show, talking about the importance of the March on Selma, which took place 50 years ago tomorrow. The president, his family, former President George W. Bush, and roughly 100 bipartisan members of Congress are headed to Selma to pay tribute and commemorate the historic anniversary of that demonstration for voting rights, which turned violent, of course, and became known as Bloody Sunday. We're looking at a picture of it. But for now, the right to vote has again come under assault by the GOP. Republicans in nearly 36 states passed laws in the last 2 years to suppress the voting rights of minorities and young people. Just listen to Republicans here in their own words. Here, before the 2012 election, Pennsylvania's Republican leader Mike Turzai said their voter ID law would give the election to Mitt Romney. Here's Turzai.
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
Done. After the election, Pennsylvania's Republican Party chair gloated about how those laws took away votes from President Obama.
Do you think all the attention drawn to voter ID affected last year's elections?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think we probably had a better election. Think about this. We cut Obama by 5%, which was big. You know, a lot of people lost sight of that. He won. He beat McCain by 10%. He only beat Romney by 5%. I think that probably voter ID had helped a bit in that.
And North Carolina Republican Precinct Chair Don Yelton said, quote, this to the Daily Show back in October after his state's new voter suppression laws were in effect.
The law is going to kick the Democrats in the butt. If it hurts a bunch of lazy blacks that wants the government to give them everything, so be it.
And it just so happens that a lot of those people vote Democrat.
Gee.
Joining the roundtable tonight, Michelle Bernard. She's president of Bernard Center. Michael Tomasky is the contributor to Daily Beast. And Cherylyn Harley LeBon is the co-host of the nationally syndicated talk show America. Anyway, thank you both for joining. Well, you have sort of a Republican background. I want to know what you think of those three guys. They admit the goal of the thing wasn't to prevent cheating wherever they found it, but it's to keep the black vote down. They just said it.
You know, Chris, I don't want to defend those guys. I don't want to be in the business of defending every Republican who makes an ignorant comment. Here's the bottom line.
36 states are doing this under Republican leadership. They are reducing the ability to vote.
No, I don't think they're reducing the ability to vote. Voter ID laws, in fact, have been proven to increase black voter participation, as they did in the state of Georgia. Are you aware of that, Chris?
No, I'm just aware of Republican leaders trying to reduce the black vote.
In the state of Georgia, black voter participation increased after they passed the state voter ID law.
Which black leaders agree with you? Who's out there saying that this is good for the black community to have it more difficult to vote?
I'm a black leader. I'm in favor of voter ID. I don't really care what the other black leaders are saying.
Here's the problem. If you live in a row house in a big city, like I grew up in, and you don't have a car, what's your ID card at the age of 80? What ID card do you have to flash to vote? You never had to do it before. The people, when they would go vote, they know you. They know who you are. You never had to show an ID card before. Where do you get that ID card? Tell me that.
Chris, if you get any sort of government assistance, if you get a Medicare card, you have to show ID. People do have photo IDs. How do you think you can get any sort of government assistance? How are people flying on the plane? Listen, Chris, you have to get, listen, but Chris, 80-year-old, my mother is 79 years old, and she has photo ID. Does your mother have photo ID?
The tapes of your Republican colleagues.
Do any of your siblings have voter ID? Come on.
It's not just the voter ID laws.
It is the voter ID laws.
We have seen the Supreme Court begin the dismantling of everything that people fought for 50 years ago. When the Supreme Court struck down part of the Voting Rights Act, states led by Republican governors basically said, now we have carte blanche to pass laws to suppress the votes of anyone who votes Democratic. So that is Latinos, it is overwhelmingly African Americans. It is a horrible, horrible thing to do. And we just saw evidence of three people who are gloating about the fact that they know that this hurts Democrats because it is suppressing the black vote.
If you're looking for federal benefits, then of course you have to show who you are, because there's a lot of fraud in that world.
Right, absolutely.
There's no evidence. Nobody on the right has adduced much evidence that there's any kind of widespread fraud in the voting booth. All you have to do to vote is be a citizen of the United States. There's even a movement on the extreme fringes of the right. Ben Carson put this in his book. Here's a black
Again, I don't want to defend him.
Ben Carson put this in his book. He doesn't understand why people who don't pay taxes have the right to vote. Well, you have the right to vote.
That's rather Hamiltonian.
Well, you have the right to vote because
Okay, let me talk about the importance. I don't argue.
Okay.
You have a position. That's fair enough. It may not be right. It's fair enough.
Well, no. We can agree to disagree.
No, I'm not doing that. I don't do that here. But you know what? It is interesting just to go back to the stakes here, because if we've, and I don't like this, but the white vote, if you want, I don't even like talking identity, but we have to live with it. The white vote was against Obama. You know, we wouldn't have an African-American president. Blacks couldn't vote. It does matter. It doesn't solve all America's problems. You have black members of Congress now all over the place. You had 50-some. You wouldn't have them if blacks couldn't vote. You wouldn't have a black caucus. So there's a lot of realities out there that are different because of the right to vote. And it comes down to ethnic representation, really, in many cases.
But look, the nostalgia that we hear so many white Republicans and others talk about, that they yearn for
Clinton would have never been president.
You know, 50 years ago, neither you nor I would have been able to get a job other than being a housekeeper. Not that anything is wrong with that, but if you wanted to do something else, you could not do it. And that is where we're going back. I think there are members of the Republican Party who have decided that it is much easier than to rather come up with a platform that will attract African Americans to the Republican Party platform. Just take away the vote and we'll just turn back the clock 100 years.
Either Kemp was on the direction of that in your party. Jack Kemp was on the direction. Enterprise zones, ways of developing neighborhoods that don't have much thing going on. We were just talking about it. Food deserts. Why isn't there a safe way in North Philly?
Joe's or Whole Paycheck going into, you know, inner cities? Well, because they don't see, I mean, they're looking at desolate buildings, they're looking at people who are taking public transportation, they think these people can't pay for it. But you know what? If you brought back enterprise zones and you gave some people some motivation to clean up the neighborhood and bring those big stores in, then you're providing jobs and you're providing other revenue and other stores that come in.